Tahir, this is Nick from NBC. Coach Rule telling us that you guys met before practice today and discussed perhaps whether or not you wanted to practice at all in light of what was going on in the NBA. Can you kind of take us into those discussions? And he also hinted that you guys were trying to do something maybe more impactful down the road.
That's exactly the case. We're just going to put our heads together. We didn't want to be, anything to be erratic. Just go out there and just, go with the status quo and just say, hey, look, we're not going to go out there and practice because everyone else is doing it. We wanted it to be, well thought out and actually make sure that we're supporting the cause, and we're going to make sure that we're doing everything that we can in the community to, combat, the changes and everything that's going on in this country currently. Because at some point, when does it end? And, it's extremely frustrating for myself included, having four sons, and I couldn't imagine, my children experiencing something as such, and, that just, honestly, it's just been keeping me up at night, just wondering, and, how would that make them feel if they experience such a thing? And, people need to be held accountable, and, families are broken, torn, and everything. So, for us, I think we need to use our platform, use our voice to make sure that, everyone understands that, this needs to end.
Mayor, at this point, you see a lot of organizations scrambling to release statements again, and it seems almost like a reiteration of what they said in June. And does it feel a little, this is what was expected, everyone went out, released a statement, but they didn't actually put action behind what they said?
I don't think it was intentional, because everything that's been going on. It's 2020 has been a crazy year. The social injustices going on in the country has been constant, and ongoing for years, for decades, centuries, call it. And then, with COVID and everything that's going on from that standpoint, it's unprecedented times. And I think, as a whole, each organization and people around the country, you kind of get back into the normalcy of things once everything starts to open up and you try to get back into your daily lives. And you open up the football facilities and guys start to get into training camp, and then, you're scrambling and everything. And it's not typical as to, what in years past, what a camp is. So I think as much as, it may seem like we got away from, that rallying cry, that battle cry of wanting to make it a change and make it, and do something in the community. That's not the case. We constantly talk about it in the locker room, just trying to figure out how exactly we're going to do it, what organizations and pinpoint, what exactly are we trying to accomplish? Because at the end of the day, you don't want mixed messages and you don't want to send mixed signals. We want to be on one accord, and I think at this point, more than ever, we need to really, come together, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Hi, Tahir Vashti with Carolina Blitz. How hard is it to focus on football on a day like today?
It's extremely hard, and it's because a lot of us, we have children, we have, younger, cousins, siblings, family members, and we know that can easily be one of them at any point in time. It can easily be one of us, and then just constantly having, every time on the news something like this happens, I'm showing my 12-year-old, 6-year-old, even down to my 3-year-old, what exactly is going on in this country. And I'm having that talk to them about, how to conduct yourself, when you encounter law enforcement. I think it's downright wrong, to have that conversation with, your children, because you feel like they're targeted when they go out in society and in this country, in this world rather. And I think, as hard as it is to focus on it, when you step in this building and you understand that, there's a bunch of men in this building that feel the same way that you feel, but also understand you have to compartmentalize and go out there, and that's our outlet at the end of the day. So, it's not that, we go out there and we take the field and it's just like, nothing else matters. It's there in the back of our mind. And, but at the same time, it's our chance to kind of go out there and take a step back, enjoy the time and, that camaraderie with one another. But then, as soon as we step off, we're right back diving into it. Like, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to accomplish change?
Tahir, this is Miles Simmons. I'm curious, because there are so many people that you guys have on a team, especially in football, does that make it easier or harder to try to figure out what you guys want to do as a collective group and how impactful that can be?
I can say it presents its challenges, because how large the team is, versus an NBA squad or things like that. But at the end of the day, I think it also has its perks in the sense of there's more reach. You have guys from different parts of the country that can reach out into their community, and then it's bringing more, like people have more insight as to which direction we should go. You have a lot of information going into the pot, and people kind of we were all putting our heads together to figure out what's the best cause to pretty much back and or fund and or put our energy into, because Mr. Tepper, he said it constantly. We have his support. We have the support of the organization. It's just that we, the players, we have to make sure we put our heads together, and not just the the black players, the minority on players on the team. Even though in the NFL, black players are the majority. We need the help of our our white teammates and so on and so forth, because it's going to be them who they go on to their community and make sure that they're hitting the message home. And it's not until it becomes equally as important to them as it is to us, collectively, that we really go out there and we get this message and our point across.
Tahir, Josh Graham.
Tahir, this is Nick from NBC again. Obviously, what we're seeing in the NBA and Major League Baseball are, going on strike for games, playoff games. Do you think that could happen in the NFL?
I don't know. I'm not going to say yes. I'm not going to say no. At the end of the day, it's just taking it one day at a time. Season doesn't start for another, few weeks. So it's a matter of how bad things get. It's a matter of, what person goes out there and says, the wrong thing, who's in charge of things and, can bring these, criminals, I'm gonna just call it like it is, to justice. Because at the end of the day, if we feel like, there's no justice, I can't, there's no telling how, we as the players and, the country is gonna feel it's gonna continue. It's gonna get a lot worse before it gets better.
I'm just interested. This is Josh Graham, by the way, to hear, considering Jeremy, the last time he played a competitive snap of football, it was at FCS at Southern Illinois, and there's no OTAs and no preseason. I mean, Coach Rule said earlier this week he'd be starting if the season started today. Just how impressive has he been to you?
To change gears, he's been extremely impressive. I'm just constantly, in awe of how professional he is, and how he goes about his day to day, how he works. And I think, at this point, he's really like a sponge. He constantly, he's asking questions. He's not big headed as much as, he can be, because, he's going out there and he's doing his thing. Whenever I have some insight or Shaq has insight, Darius has insight, anyone in the linebacker core or anyone on the team, he's listening and he's, with intent, and he's, staring you dead in your eyes, and you had his full attention. And just by that alone, I think he's going to go a long way, as long as, he continue to do all the right things, as far as taking care of himself. He's just taking heat right now to the better guys on the team. And, pretty much you can say what he's been told about coming to the league prior.
Does anybody have any other questions for Tahir?
This is Vashti again. Coach said that there were mixed emotions on the team. Were there guys who wanted to sit out of practice? And if there were, as a team, did you have to convince them to participate tonight?
No, I'd say, at the end of the day, we all on the same accord. We felt like, as a team, we didn't have an exact direction, which we were going to go. And at that point in time, it would be, it wouldn't be, in our best interest at that point in time to just not go out there just because, to follow suit and fall in line with everyone else is doing. Because at the end of the day, I believe everyone else had a message and they were detailing their reasoning as to, why, exactly, even though, the events in which, everyone that has everyone, up in arms, it would have been easy to just say, oh yeah, we don't like this, we're not going to practice. I think at that point, it would have just been just following that. I think we have a bunch of leaders on this team, a bunch of guys that believe in doing the right thing, and we're going to do the right thing. We're going to make sure that we do and put our heads together to make sure it's well thought out, and we're actually doing something to make change, to make an impact in our community. Because at some point, when is it in, and it has to end, and until we come together, as a country, and stop, pointing the finger at one another and say, you need to do this better, you need to do that better, and actually listen to one another. That's when, the change is going to come. As long as we continue to cover our ears, or, the masses continue to cover their ears about, our problems and the problems in, the urban areas, or, the minorities, and, the blacks and Latinos in this country experience, things aren't going to change. So we're going to just keep pulling in the same direction. We'll make sure that we make a huge impact when we finally come together as a team and put our initiative